The community is still a hot button topic in Marvel Strike Force. Many people were expecting to get answers out of the question and answer video or the vision video that the company put out. We didn't get any direct answer to that, so most people are walking away feeling disappointed. However, I think the answer is actually there. I think we're able to take the information we have and walk away with a reasonable conclusion about where the game is and where the game is heading. To understand that, though, we need to understand what has happened. How did we get here in the first place? How does the history of Marvel Strike Force demonstrate what's going to happen in its future? So travel with me back a year or so ago, maybe even 2 years ago now at this point, to a time when the game made a statement, right? There was a statement made about the way characters were going to be released into the game for the free-to-play player. There was now a structured release cadence. Characters would come out at such and such a date, and then about 2 months later, they would come out in some type of a free-to-play format. So first they come out for the paid, and then they came out for a free-to-play format. There was approximately 2 months difference in between those two things. One character for each team. They would try. They didn't guarantee you, but they would try. They said the intent was to put one out there a little bit earlier, right? A little bit earlier. There'd be a free-to-play event that character would probably almost as soon as they're mentioned also be available free-to-play by interacting with the game. That is a super huge and important point. The way you generally get things in Marvel Strike Force is time, money, or both. That is the type of investment, how this game works, and how many games in this genre work. Alongside that, there are different styles of players, right? Just because a person spends money, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a hardcore player. They can spend money and be casual. So there are casual and hardcore players that spend a different amount of time and money, invest that in the game in order to make progress. So when it comes to the free-to-play community, Mr. Ryan Jacobson has always tried to make up a system where the engaged player can still succeed, right? If you're an engaged player and you're playing for free, you're a free-to-play player, you're on that treadmill, he wants you to be able to keep moving, maybe grab that first piece of fruit, and then that second one is just out of reach, right? If I put down $5, $10, $25, whatever, I can grab that next piece, and there's a bracket like that for each stage of spending. That's just how these games work, right? This is nothing new, nothing that we don't already know, but it's important to keep those things in mind. So with this new release structure, the community got upset. There was a lot of negative press around this. Most people said that this was bad for free-to-play players. The community was on fire and they missed the points, they missed the details, as unfortunately often happens when individuals take to the internet. They try to get the community riled up, and unfortunately, many times they're successful and they miss the necessary points that we need, especially if you're a free-to-play or a cheap-to-play player. What do we mean by that? Well, on this channel, we understood what was going on. Right alongside that announcement, they adjusted the power core system. Okay, they adjusted the power core system. One of the things that sometimes happens, I shouldn't say sometimes, we have to understand that people play the game differently. So there's arena shards where people are there's only 50 people, maybe 50 people that are active in arena. We've seen certain content creators say that here I am at rank 20, at rank 30, at rank 10. And they've been there for a week and nobody has attacked them, right? Nobody has attacked them. See, for them, their shard isn't super active. But other places, let's say you have 500 people that are all very active. So it's very, very easy then, even as a free-to-play player, to get pushed way down in certain arena shards. What that means is the power core economy is not something that's equal, so to speak. And you don't necessarily need it to be equal, but you need it to be level at a point where the company knows, okay, people should be able to achieve this. We're basing our economy on this right here. People should be able to achieve this. So they made the rewards a little bit more generous to kind of make sure that even if you're in that bottom, like you're in that 500, you still had enough power cores to do the things that you were doing each and every day. Refreshing, for example, your campaign energy. Some of us, right, we're on a spot where we hoard energy, but if you're a free-to-play player, most people don't do that. They use that to finish their milestones. They can't log in multiple times a day, so you need to be able to refresh your campaign energy to finish your daily milestones. There was also another caveat there. You were starting to get a surplus of power cores. For what reason? Well, again, the engaged player also needs to have a carrot on a stick. So if the release window for a character was 2 months, very quickly, right? We knew that right away on this channel, and not here. We have other individuals do the same thing. You could shrink that release window by using power cores to buy orbs. Now, initially, you didn't have enough, right? You weren't stacking up enough that you had this abundance. What we would do is maybe twice a week, we would open an orb and just get those shards. And the whole philosophy was just, I'm trying to unlock this character free to play inside of the first month, right? The quicker we can unlock the character, the quicker we can power them up, the quicker we can save again, and the cycle continues. We're trying to move towards the front of the spear. I know that even though I'm a free to play player, I'm not going to have, right, the overall power that a spender would have, but the quicker I can get that character unlocked, the quicker I can power them up, the quicker that gets me back into a mode that I can save, rinse and repeat. And that way you keep your resources in hand and you're able to do what you need to do to make sure your characters are strong. Over the course of time, right, things change, arena changes, the arena meta changes, new people get involved, and these power cores start to become easier for more and more people. The active player base is able to now start to acquire power cores at such a rate that they don't need, or if you're free to play, right, on the spenders, they don't need to buy. But we'll start over here on the free to play. The free to play are starting to close the gap on the spending community. Why? Because part of the spending community is unlocking the character. They're doing the same thing. The quicker they can get the character, the quicker they can power them up, yada, yada, save for the next cycle. There used to be a gap of about a month between the free to play and the first level of spenders that would buy characters. And that over time went away. Now that first level of spenders, that's kind of pricey, right? You think about characters, there's like $50. So it's kind of pricey. So each character that comes out, that's like $50 or more. 3 characters that are new on a team, it's $150 compared to the person who's literally not spending anything. The first sign of trouble, so to speak, shows up when an individual by the name of Saw Owner gets the #1 spot in Cosmic Crucible. Now, Saw Owner, I don't think he was a free-to-play player, but he made it very, very clear that he was not really a spender. He wasn't a spender in the way that you would think of a whale and a kraken. That's what he at least said at the time. And he was able to climb and take the #1 spot in Crucible. What did that demonstrate? Well, it demonstrates that there's people in the community that are extraordinarily talented. They're good. They really are into the nuts and bolts, the tactics of the game. And that's good. You want that. You want that. You want that competitive atmosphere. But again, it was also the first sign of trouble. Why? Because here's someone who's not spending money competing at the same level as individuals who are spending exorbitant amounts of money. So sometimes we think, well, Krakens, they're stupid people. They don't know how to play the game. They just throw money at the problem. That's many times how individuals are portrayed. But we have to keep in mind, once again, the different play styles exist throughout. There's people that are kind of novices, medium, high, your level of engagement, and then how much time and money that you spend. So there's whales and krakens that are very, very strategic, and they spend money on the game, just in the same way that there's free-to-play players who are very strategic. They just maybe not spend money. There are people that only log in once in a while, right? On the more casual side, there are people who spend money that only log in once in a while, and they're on the casual side. So for Saw Owner to get to the end and be able to be the #1 player in Crucible, again, it's a victory for the community because in the sense that, hey, anybody can do this. But it also showed there was a weakness in the system. The gap between the free to play and the spenders was very, very narrow. So much so that an individual, as long as he had the proper teams, he could compete with anybody else in the game. And when we say the proper teams, right, it's not an entire roster. In that sense, it's just enough to make sure you're winning effectively in Cosmic Crucible. Something had to be done, right? The spenders aren't going to spend if they have no advantage. That's why people spend money. They're trying to get the characters early. They're trying to get them powered up, right? The philosophy is similar. Get the characters early, power up, save up for the next session. And you're hoping that if you spend, your character, the power, right, in your character should be different. That's something that's always been part of Marvel Strike Force. That is another key element that's always been part of Marvel Strike Force. The characters are always available to you. You generally have to pay for the power. But now in this case, the difference in power was simply not enough. So It looks like the next step was Scopely implemented the Overpower system. And once again, the community goes nuts. They're on fire. They're saying that this isn't fair, right? They just had their champion, Mr. Saw owner, get the #1 spot in Cosmic Crucible. And now there was a block, a wall in the way that basically said if you weren't going to put power into your characters, they shouldn't be able to compete with individuals who are. Again, I know that sounds distasteful, but in reality, it's something that was necessary. It needed to be done, right? We have teams that they're very good, and we want good teams in the game. We want good teams in the game. But if a person only has, let's say, a team and they're made at gear 18, and now this individual has a fully kitted out team, gear tier 20, they shouldn't be able to compete with each other. But without the Overpower system, they could. And that's one of the reasons why individuals were able to make their way up and win in player versus player modes. It's not their fault. That's how the game was laid out at the time. It's just not good for competitive play because it doesn't reward the people who put in the effort, right? As well as the money, right? Time, money, and effort, all those things should be rewarded. So once again, the community is on fire, not understanding what's happening. People are making false statements about teams not working anymore, things of that nature. It gets confusing. And again, we miss the details. We talked a lot about that here as well. So we needed another fix then. We needed another fix. So what did Scopely apparently do? Well, they didn't make an announcement, but it looks like they adjusted the way that we gain power in Marvel Strike Force. By adjusting the economy, they turned the dial down. So in reality, on the free-to-play side, we can only get 5 characters, and that's if we do everything that we're being asked to do. If you're not able to be super far engaged, maybe you don't have enough for 5 characters. I get that. I understand it. There's times when all I can do is just log in. There's times when I'm busy, all I can do is just log in, try not to lose my streak, maybe hit the auto button, the sim button, get a couple raids done. And sometimes that's all I can do in a day. And so maybe some of you are like that. So what started happening, right? This changed the economy. Well, happened close to the end of the year here. So we have 2 teams on the holiday season that kind of get introduced. Winter Guard and Retcon, that kind of happens towards the end of the year. They kind of just throw some characters out because it's the holidays. Their people are going to be going home. Alongside that, there's a level cap increase. And people start powering up their characters and they find out that they just couldn't level everything up. Once again, there was outrage, right? There was outrage. They said, well, we're not getting enough gold to power all of our characters up to level 110. Again, we're missing one of the main points. Level 110 is a progression system. Progression systems are made to first be taken advantage of by the spending community. So for the free-to-play side, yeah, if we tried to power up all of our guys to 110, we ran out of resources very, very fast. And with 2 teams sitting on the table in the form of the Winter Guard and the Retcon team, not understanding, right, that's 10 characters, not understanding that things had changed, people ran out of their resources very, very quickly. Now, we had the videos and they're talking about us content and stuff that's coming out. We've actually seen some of the things happen in the game, right? We were starting to see content pick back up. We see some of the dynamic backgrounds in the game, which at one time was impossible. It was impossible for Marvel Strike Force to actually add backgrounds to the game. So over time, they are spending money on getting a hold of that code and things of that nature, making sure that they're able to program the game more effectively. So with the outline video talking about things to come, money being invested into the hardware and software of the system on the developer side show that the game wants to be here for a while. But what does that have to do with what we're talking about when it comes to the economy? Well, we think it looks like the economy was reset. And one of the things that happened is we didn't have any content. During the town hall, the question and answer, Ryan Jacobson was kind of asked about the economy. They kind of said they weren't going to be talking about it, but they kind of said the stuff is already in the game. They talked about engagement. They talked about maybe pillars in the sense of maybe you play this event and you get your stuff. You play this event and you get your stuff. You know that, hey, I do this to get my gold, this to get my training materials. But he kind of alluded to, hey, playing the game is how you're going to get your stuff. Now, he didn't say it directly, but there's always been that caveat with him. He understands games. He's fair that the engaged player should be able to get things done and have a better time than the people who are not engaged, right? If you're not involved in the community, if you're not trying to research and find out what's going on. If you're not doing anything extra, then you shouldn't get anything extra. I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that kind of seems to be the way that things go. And so what brought all this together is what happened very, very recently as we went through the Eclipse event and are powering up our Daring Warriors. We're going to need to go to the game to finish this discussion. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to start here on the event screen. Now, one of the things that happened is we didn't have any events, really, right? People were saying there's nothing to do in the game. We didn't really have events. The events didn't have many rewards in them. For example, the Champions event, if we remember, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I think we had some training materials, which is good. We had some training materials, which is good. But if we were continue to farm this, what do we get? We get shop credits and experience points, which is fine. People need that. But also, we have our Echoes of the Abyss event there. We had our Negative Zone event, and now we have our Eclipse Lost event. If you're like me, I'm wondering how far you're able to get with the characters that I had. I had to stop at number 6. I don't have any characters at level 108. I am a free-to-play player, and right now, the free-to-play economy, you should stop at 105. We'll take a brief look here at my champions team. So we had 3 members that were gear tier 20. Wizard Guard team, same thing. 3 members that were gear tier 20. Everybody's level 105. And so far the result, this is my Daring Warriors team. We have the 3 new members, Eclipse, Night Thrasher, and Speedball, level 105, gear tier 20. Now, the thing that made me think about this video is I got Eclipse and Speedball unlocked on the same day. I need to get red stars on my Speedball. I got to make sure I pull for those. I got my Eclipse and my Speedball unlocked on the same day, and I was able to take them both up to 105, gear tier 20, and I didn't run out of gold, right? I had 2 characters. I was able to bring both of them up, gear tier 20, 105, and I didn't run out of gold. The only difference is what has happened in the past couple of days in the form of events. Some of those events, again, gave us gold. Some of them gave us training materials. Some of them gave us gear. We don't always recognize that the game sometimes gives us gear that is appropriate for these characters as they're being released into the game. So I have a theory. I have a theory that the new economy has to do with the content. All the information we got during the question and answer and the vision video all seem to center around content. And obviously, if we don't have the characters, we can't participate in the content. There was some type of a baseline economy that was really kind of keeping people choked. But now we're getting content again, and things feel a little bit freer. As a free-to-play player, there has been mistakes made. We are not supposed to be competing with the spenders. They're not going to allow that to happen. But there's always been an opportunity for the engaged player to succeed and get the things that they need. And I think that's the pivot. That's the direction. That's part of the answer to the question. There will be a baseline economy. That baseline economy will be tight. It might not be enough for us to do what we need to do, but engaging with the content will fill in the gaps and give us the resources that we need. That feels like that's what the answer to the question is. We'll be putting this to the test. All right. I'll be interested to see the numbers as they come in. It is it is March 19th as we're recording this video. So I have 10 days or more till we get to the next month, depending on the release cadence. Do I have enough time to build my economy to put Jessica Jones and Daredevil to 105 gear tier 20? That's going to be one of the tests. And if that's the pattern that holds, then I think that's where the game is going. It'll be tight for us, again, on the free-to-play side, but it should ensure more of that gap, more of that separation between the free-to-play and the spending community. We have one more suspicion, and that has to do, again, with the retcon team. You see, we haven't built them at all yet. Why? Because I don't have Jeff the Landshark unlocked. I'm in an average alliance right now. This is my in-game account. I'm in an average alliance right now. And so there's many people that are probably in our position. I just recently made it to level 110. So the economy, again, isn't really ready for 110. And we don't have Jeff the Landshark, meaning the retcon team does not work. So technically, maybe the next team that we're supposed to build on the free-to-play side is actually the retcon team. We'll have to see when we get into the anniversary event. We have had anniversaries before where there was no team. It was kind of a catch-up month. In reality, it's not a catch-up month. In reality, what it is just, okay, just like has happened this year, you get a lot of teams, a lot of characters in the beginning or late in the previous year. If you're a spender, you can keep up with it. If you're not, we get bogged down in the mire. This has happened repeatedly. And perhaps this anniversary, if there's no team, we're going to have to see, is a time to build it. Even if there is a team, maybe the economy, maybe that's what Mr. Ron Jacobson was talking about with that gold. Maybe that's the injection that gives you the time when you're supposed to build whatever one of those teams that we didn't do. So be it Retcon, Winter Guard, Champions. I don't know. We're going to have to see. This is my speculation. Let me know what you think in the comments below. The game has changed. The game has to change. It was way too free to play friendly. That's what has happened. Things need to be fixed. It needs to be a course correction. What is the appropriate course of action? Is playing the content the right thing? That's what I want. I think that if I have an opportunity to earn it, I would rather have the opportunity to earn it than not have it at all. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Let me know. And hey, if you haven't seen this video right here, please check it out. It's legit.